Just cruising, baby. Out here chilling. Look at that, look at the beauty. This golf course. Loving it, you know what I mean? The air is different. The prestige is a little different. Pro-black all day, every day, nonetheless. I'm just here with it. You know what I mean? Done a little something new. Little golf. See, knowledge is the key. Yeah, and for me, knowledge has been a key to unlock doors into bigger rooms of prestige, knowledge, and mentoring. So I'm taking advantage of that, you know? Knowledge is power, and be empowered by it, all right? Peace, love, and light to the family.
Just to live. Such an egotistical kind of levity. They're selling us a kind of plastic identity, built up on a dream about prosperity. Forget about the real and all necessity, and just to live. It's like I'm in a competition with you, just for peace. Just to live. It's like I'm in a competition with you, just for peace.
Peace, love, and light, family. It's your brother Sankofa, back at you once again. As you can see, I'm out here, poolside, solo. You know, enjoying the tranquility of being by myself at the time, for the time being. And by poolside, you know, the ambiance is nice. The weather's almost perfect. I mean, it's not too hot. It's definitely not cold at all, especially for this time of year. Nice, beautiful, beautiful Saturday morning. And, you know, before I go hit the gym and go get my physical workout on, you know, I always like to go into what I call the brain gym, or really the mind gym. You know, the brain is an organ in the body. The mind is the unseen sphere within the brain, you know, that controls habits, desires, thoughts, and, you know, just our higher faculties of thought, you know, is within the mind. So I like to go into the mind gym and, you know, work out in the brain and the mind, okay? Neuroplasticity, another word for it, you know, doing series of thought exercises and what have you that strengthen focus, mental acuity, so on and so forth. So I like to usually go into the mind gym before I hit the physical gym. It's just part of my balance. And in doing so this morning, you know, going into my thoughts, you know, sorting out my thinking while I have some time to myself and no people distraction around me, you know, the idea for a real brief topic that I wanted to go into with the people. Okay, I wanted to go into distractions. Okay, not just any distractions. We all have distractions in life because nothing's perfect. And when you're dealing with work and dealing with people or dealing with in a domestic capacity, your family, there are inevitably going to be a distraction or some level of distraction. Sometimes we're distracted by our own thoughts and, you know, our own clutter in our mental addicts, so to speak. But what I want to talk about right now is the distraction on a collective level, not necessarily on an individual level, because we all have distractions, but on a collective level, you know, different distractions that as a collective are proven to be detrimental, anti-productive, anti-revolutionary, and very counterproductive as it pertains to what our focus collectively ought to be on as a people who are supposedly conscious, that are pursuing advancement in stages, growth, development, and also ultimately leading into forms of liberation in our life, you know. So, you know, we all know what a distraction is. I don't think I would have to break down what a distraction is for people, but, you know, in my own words, a distraction is basically simply when your focus or attention has been compromised, So when your focus or attention has been compromised, you are distracted. You are off track. Okay, you are not on track. You are distracted or off track. What is a design? A design is something that is well thought out, usually a blueprint or something that took a lot of thought, focus, attention, and commitment towards a specific goal, an objective, an agenda, what have you. All right? That is something that you will call a design, something that is customized. So we are talking about distractions by design. Now, notice I said distractions. I pluralized it. Not a distraction, because they were distracted. We all have distractions around us, but certain ones by design, artificially induced a lot of times. Things that are causing us to compromise our focus and what our objective and what our attention should be focused on is being compromised. And you see it playing out in the way that a lot of people who are supposed to be people who are advocates for the mental liberation, the advancement, and the improvement of our people, you see a lot of us specifically becoming very distracted. Or not becoming very distracted, but very along the way in being distracted. Okay? Now, we got to understand that mind control is not nothing new. A lot of people, whether you're conscious or unconscious, are unconscious. That's right, whether you're conscious or unconscious, by what you claim or what you proclaim, are unconscious to the fact that we are being controlled. Our views and our perspectives are molded and shaped and formed for us, and our responses are even calculated to a very great extent. You know what I mean? It's called engineering human consciousness. Your consciousness is being engineered to a great extent. You know, that's right, on a collective level, many of us. That's why we have this turn on, tune in, and become a robot type of mind state, pattern, and behavior that you see very prevalent in our community. And when I say the community, I don't just mean the conscious community. I mean in your household, in your immediate community, whether you're at work, whether you're in your neighborhood, what have you. You know what I mean? Our thoughts are controlled. Our reactions are calculated. There's even a reason why, reality shows, reality TV has so many people out of touch with reality. A lot of times we talk about the matrix, and we say these words, matrix, we say distraction, we say these things, and these words really do have substance to them, and they're very critically relevant because these are things that are happening. We are in a matrix. All right, we are distracted, but I think sometimes we don't really realize how deep the rabbit hole goes, how layered the agenda is, and how many tiers to this, and how well designed the distractions of designs are engineered by those who engineer or re-engineer human consciousness. So what I want to do is give a little historical backdrop on just a little bit of science, the history of the science of mind control on a mass level. On a mass level, it would be called monoidealism. Mono meaning one, idealism basically meaning an idea. So one idea, am I trying to suggest that all people share the same idea and worldview? Because we tune in and turn on and because we're a robot? No, I'm not saying that. But the common thread reality is that we're easily distracted, We don't understand the level of the in-depthness and the agenda, in the tapestry, the historical tapestry behind this is even done, okay? So going into a little historicity, you have the people like Maximilian Wundt, German psychologists. Germany had really at one time wasn't a European power. The way they were in the 1940s, maybe 60, 70 years ago, Germany, it was a revolution going on in Germany, So you've seen with science, with technological advancement, especially when I say science, I'm not talking about just technology, weaponry. They stepped it up. There was a big revolution in in Europe at the time, specifically Germany, and they became the most powerful European force at that time. And many people who were world rulers and people who are dealing with, government, as far as it deals with being a liaison with people and dealing with how people perceive the world and what's filtered through to people through media, through television, through advertisement, through marketing. Yes, a lot of these type of people within the system have incorporated many of the concepts, the ideas, and the philosophies, and even the methodologies that many of the German engineers, and when I say engineers, those who were engineering human consciousness, they adopted a lot of that, and you see it proliferating. You see it if you know what you're looking at, okay, and you really privy to some of the historicity of what was taking place in Germany and how we see a lot of the mind control antics and tactics and stratagems and methodologies playing out right now in real time and affecting masses of people, not just our people, even though this message is specifically geared towards our people and towards those who claim to be advocates of black liberation. The distraction by design affects every and all people, but I categorically want to address my people. Okay, that is my focal point and interest on this specific topic and subject matter. So you had a Russian physiologist by the name of, what's his name? Ivan Pavlov, who is responsible for the theory of controlled reaction. He is responsible for the theory of controlled reaction. So a lot of the theories and the ideas and the concepts that he developed on as far as how to artificially induce certain chains of events, okay, and how to make people act, react, or respond to this, okay, was something very profound. There's a book on it. Well, there's many different books on it. There was a book that I read a few years ago, very interesting, and it was entitled Engineering Human Consciousness. Engineering Human Consciousness by Jim Keith. Okay, now with all information, you eat the fish and spit out the bones. I mean, some things are, I don't know about that, but there's a lot of insight and a lot of profound information in there that I think would give people a little bit more understanding or awareness, or a little bit of edge as far as to why people are so controlled, why people are so distracted, whether they are conscious, whether they claim to be conscious or they don't claim to be conscious, whether they're conscious or unconscious, why this common thread of a distraction exists. I mean, you know what I mean? And what could we do to offset that? Now, when you pay attention to something, listen to the word, pay attention. When you pay for something, you're purchasing, you're buying it. So when you're paying attention to certain things, you're buying it, you're actually purchasing that experience. That's why it's called paying attention. Okay, and because we have been paying so much attention by many of the distractions by design, i.e. futile or silly arguments over the shape of the earth instead of our condition on it and what we ought to do to fix it. A whole community divided over a movie, The Black Panther, case in point. Conscious folk, people who are advocates of mental liberation and the transformation and the improvement of our people, distracted, divided over concepts and ideas. When you're paying attention to Kanye West, can't leave that out because that is a little bit more contemporary. Kanye West and his meeting with President Trump. President Trump recently, with him saying that he went to the history of African American culture, I believe it's called that, but it's in Washington, D.C., and it's a Smithsonian type of institution or museum that is in Washington, D.C., and when he went there, said a lot of good things, or sound good anyway, and depending on who's listening to it and how they process information and how they see deception coming in 3D. Depending on who's listening and who's a recipient of that information, people can be distracted, okay, or offset in certain ways. These things are by design. These things are socially engineered. These plans are well thought out. And there's long-term trajectories and ominous implications that the people who design these psychological programming, because we're all under some kind of psychological programming, whether you call yourself super conscious, extremely super conscious, or you don't call yourself consciousness at all and you don't even deal with this information. On some level, we are brainwashed, manipulated, and distracted. But the difference is many people willfully give our energy, our focus, or our attention. We pay for that experience, and in paying some attention to that, we're overdrafting or depleting funds from what ought to be our focus account. We are overdrafting because we are paying so much attention to the distractions by design that we have depleted the funds or the resources or the focus that ought to be in the focus account, that we ought to be paying our attention, our time, our energy, our focus towards the greater good and the advancement and the improvement of our people with whatever resource or currency of knowledge that we have. A lot of us, not all of us, but far too many of us are distracted. We're divided, beefing over different YouTube channels, beefing over how we pronounce words, beefing over whether the Metu Neter has been interpreted or not, beefing over the shape of the earth instead of our shape and condition on the earth, beefing and distracted and arguing and being divided by choice, paying that attention, purchasing the experience of the distraction by design is what you see exhibiting and being very prevalent in what we would call the conscious network. Some people say the conscious community. I say the conscious network because we have yet to build a community. Key word in the word community is unity. Unity. We do have conscious people on different levels, from different schools of thoughts, but I wouldn't say we have a community. I would say we have different networks, and we have yet to bring those networks together and to form a real community, a true community, and a true sense of what a community is and ought to be, with a long-term trajectory for success and improvement and advancement. But a lot of times what we are is we're paying our time, our focus, and what ought to be our commitment to, pulling out old weeds and planting new seeds of knowledge to offset and transcend, to offset the distraction and allow us to, through teaching and focusing our information on teaching what's relevant, what's critically pertinent, and that which is missing. We have been distracted. We are allowing ourselves to compromise our focus, and we're giving into the distractions by design. And these are things that we need to consider and reconsider, because it's about to get a lot more interesting. I mean, the things that I'm speaking about right now, it's real. It's going on in real time. There shouldn't be any dispute with that which we see. But we got to understand, because people who have socially engineered different things, the unseen hands, the silent weapons for quiet wars that we're all being assaulted with, whether we are conscious or unconscious of it. You know what I'm saying? There are long-term ominous objectives that these people have in their designing. They have a long-term trajectory or blueprint that they want to come out of this. Am I trying to conspiratorialize you? If that's a word, it is now. No, I'm not trying to be over conspiratorial. My concern is legitimate, and it is rooted for the love, for the advancement, and the mental liberation, because mental liberation has to precede ultimate and literal and complete liberation. Mental liberation is the step that we're still in and that we're stuck in, okay? But we're so distracted or off track, and our focus is so compromised that many of us are drinking the Kool-Aid of distraction. We are drinking the Kool-Aid of distraction. Nobody's forcing the Kool-Aid of distraction on many of us. Many of us are feeding it. I'm not saying don't watch news and don't have an opinion, but a lot of us are stuck. Anything that comes out, any disagreement that comes out, any celebrity that makes a comment, any rap song that comes out, you see a lot of us paying for and buying that experience and depleting the account of focus and depleting, you know what I'm saying, and overdrafting out of the account of what ought to be focused towards improvement and advancement and mental liberation of our people. And a lot of times, a lot of our people, we like the negativity. They like the drama. We feed into it. That's why when a video comes out dropping information and pertinent history that is applicable sciences, you see a lot less views on those videos as opposed to with videos that's dealing with drama and strife and back and forth banging on YouTube, because it's only lip boxing. It's only lip boxing, you know what I'm saying, on YouTube. And it's a lot of distractions and a lot of egotistical, underqualified, understudied people. Not everybody, but far too many, because with the advent of social media, anybody has a voice now. So because you have a voice and you have a camera and you have modern technology, your contemporary technology, you're able to go out and say any goddamn thing. It doesn't have to be rooted in anything. It doesn't have to be worth anything. Your words don't even have to be worth its weight in gold. Your words and your actions don't even have to be worth its weight in gold. If you're just popular because the condition of our people is so dire, you know what I mean? And we're so lost, so many of us, that it's sad that, you know, we have whole channels and they're following banging on each other. You know what I mean? Because we're drinking the Kool-Aid of distractions. Not only is there the ultimate distraction of design, but there is the distraction of the design that we develop, that we partake in. There's the Kool-Aid that we willfully drink. You know what I mean? And we have to really understand that and figure out, is that good for us? And with all the chaos and the distractions and the confusion, first, a lot of good information was being put out, and a lot of people was feeling it. A lot of people was learning from it, and they still are. But now we see a smorgasbord of information, of all kind of just different things out there. And a lot of people just coming into the consciousness now may be distracted, confused, and even turned off. You know what I'm saying? And might as well go back into the whole matrix of the primary level of confusion where everybody's confused at, instead of stepping out of that matrix, because in the so-called, what we call the conscious community or conscious network, you see that the confusion is crazy and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. And I often wonder what's to come out of this. You know, I often wonder what is to come out of this. So I keep myself focused. You know, I unplug at times. I get into my workouts, my meditation. I tune in to see what's going on, but I don't always have to respond. I don't always have to answer questions people ask me of it, or I keep it brief, because I want to offset and distract myself from the distractions of design that are there. All right? This information is powerful, but the information without any kind of mental protection and direction and counter stratagem. And what I mean by counter distraction is something that distracts you from the distraction of design that is around you and that's prevalent and that is there regardless. It ain't going nowhere. If we can talk liberation all we want, but it's only going to be a punchline and some feel-goodism and some sound-goodism if we don't really hijack our minds back and we don't distract ourselves constructively from the distractions of the designs that are designed to offset, distract us, and ultimately allow for the conscious community to implode in on each other. Stokely Carmichael said this in closing. He said the job of the conscious is to make the unconscious conscious. Now, if we're unconscious ourselves in our claims to be conscious, because we're not considering the fact that we are being distracted from what our job and what our post ought to be as teachers and as advocates for liberation, then we are aiders and abettors and willful participants in the distraction by design campaign. So that's all I want to say. Take this into consideration and stop drinking the Kool-Aid of distraction. All right? Look at my shirt. Sankofa. Okay? Beautiful shirt. Shout out to the brother Messiah who gave me this shirt. My focus is this. United we bargain. Divided we beg. The choice is yours. Distraction by design or hijacking your mind back. I'm about to go get it in. In the meantime, in between time, you take care of yourself, all right? And take care of others, all right? We are going to win, but how you going to win when you ain't right within? Like Lauryn Hill said, peace, love, and light, people. Until next time, it's your brother Sankofa.